Update. This morning, mutual friend, bridesmaid, I'll call Pam, messaged me today to give me an update. Mary and her fiancé, I'll call Frank, are currently not on speaking terms because they got into an argument last night. It wasn't directly because of the cake, but what the cake debacle revealed to Frank. Apparently, Mary has been spending a lot of his money on this wedding. Now, we all kind of already knew that. Mary told us Frank and his family would be footing the bill. He's an engineer and his family has a lot of money. I'm not exactly sure what their family wealth is from, but it was enough to pay out of pocket for him and his siblings to go to expensive universities debt-free. What we didn't know is that they were arguing about the finances this entire time, and the cake was the last straw for Frank. Mary's budget for the wedding was $30,000, and apparently she spent almost double on that. Intricate flowers, her wedding dress, decorations, engagement photos, catering, open bar, entertainment, and flying her family in and paying for their accommodations. The venue alone took a good chunk of their money because of the size and location. Almost an hour away from where we live. It's a large house, possibly considered a mansion, with several acres of land, horses, a lake, and a field for wedding photos. The entire party is supposedly staying there for a few days leading up to the wedding. I've not seen it in person. Again, I'm not in the wedding party and never was. But the photos online make it obvious about why it's so expensive. I had no idea they had spent that much, and neither did anyone in the wedding party. As far as we all knew, the most expensive thing Mary had bought was her wedding dress, to the tune of $5,000. I only know because I went with her to try on some with other friends and bridesmaids. Pam's fiancé is one of Frank's groomsmen. Frank has been venting to the groomsmen in text about how much this is costing, and he's not sure he wants to do this anymore. However, he feels compelled to because the money has been spent and is non-refundable. But he said he didn't know Mary would be this way because she typically sticks to budgets, which is true. Literally everyone is surprised by how much she is supposedly spending, including my husband and me. Mary is the person who gets everything off-brand at the store just to save $1, even when she doesn't really need to. From what Pam told me, Mary asked him to just pay me so she could have the cake, and he said no. Not because he couldn't afford it, because he was tired of spending money on just one day. He told her to figure it out herself. So nobody knows what is going on anymore, or if there will even be a wedding. No one has reached out to me about the cake either, and my husband, for those of you wondering, is still on team Mary can suck an egg. Before anyone asked, no, Mary did not grow up poor. She was very much middle class like I was, and she'd never been broke or anything. She's also never seemed like she wanted overly expensive stuff. She drives a 10-year-old sedan, despite the fact that Frank is saying she needs a new car. She will not get rid of it because it runs fine, and my dad taught me to drive my cars into the ground. So believe me when I say it is really out of character for her to be this nonchalant about money. I'm not sure if I'll have another update. If I do, it will be after the wedding, if there is one. ETA, I know a lot of people are saying things about Mary just using Frank for his money, but at the same time, I want to remember that Pam only gave me Frank's side via what he's been telling the groomsmen. I have no idea what part he played, and if this really actually bothered him up to this point, or if he's ever mentioned the amount she's been spending to her. It's now 6 p.m. and I have not spoken to or heard from Mary since yesterday after me giving her the quote, so I don't have any more to add other than my perspective. It really does sound out of character for Mary to be doing this, but I remember when I got married that my husband said he wanted me to have what made me happy for our wedding. So if he's been telling her what my husband told me, and still giving her the money, then he's definitely not an innocent party. Long story short, the villain in this situation isn't Mary, it's Frank. And no, they did not get married. This update is all the information I've gathered from the bridesmaid Pam and her fiancé, so bear with me. Most of this is what Mary had told Pam, who then related to me. Anyway, I mentioned before that Mary was, and still is, a frugal person. That's why we all thought the gift and cake thing were weird, as well as her spending a bunch of money on the wedding. It turns out that Mary had actually been trying to save money despite doubling their budget. Apparently, Frank's family always throws extravagant celebrations and parties. This includes birthdays, holidays, graduations, and weddings. So Frank had been emphasizing to Mary that this wedding is supposed to be huge, because that's just how his family is. I guess it was a way to flaunt success, but that's just a guess. I don't know the real reason. But Frank had been hands off this entire time. I'm not surprised. My own husband only cared about the food, cake flavor, and that the colors weren't pink. But Frank had been telling Mary to save money since this is what she's good at, and that he didn't want to spend a bunch of money on one day. So Mary picked up things that were cheaper, but they were not good enough for Frank. Like the mansion/large house where everyone would be staying. Yeah, Frank's idea. Mary apparently wanted to do a hotel that hosted weddings because her family could stay there for less money, and the hotel was just cheaper to host a wedding versus a literal mansion with horses. He would do this with everything and veto things like her choice of decorations and vendors if they weren't big enough, or I'm guessing extravagant. He even told her how big her bouquet had to be and that her dress needed to have a lot of bling. So basically Mary has been trying to stick to the budget, but what was in the budget didn't match Frank's taste or expectations. So when I said she had to pay for the cake, Frank accused Mary of not saving the money despite her being so money conscious. And Mary wasn't the one who had a problem with the cake, it was Frank. I guess they both knew the cake was free, but Frank didn't know I was making it as my gift. Mary explained I was, and he said it didn't count and to ask me about it. He said it didn't count because friends doing favors for an event like a wedding is not a gift. On some level, she must have agreed because she didn't mention Frank being the one with the problem at all in the messages, but whatever. Anyway, the cake was what Mary was really looking forward to because it was the only thing she felt she had 100% say in. But when I charged her for it, Frank was upset that Mary was not saving the money like he was expecting. This resulted in a fight where they ended up not on speaking terms. When Frank was complaining to Pam's fiance and the rest of the groomsmen in a text, and according to Pam, Mary found them and left Frank for making her seem like a greedy bitch to everyone when she was only getting things Frank wanted without Frank's help. And if it were up to her, they wouldn't have most of the expensive things she bought for the wedding. The only contact I've had from Mary was an apology text. I told her it was okay and we were still friends. She didn't answer. In fact, she hasn't answered anyone other than to tell them the wedding was off and to apologize for the inconvenience. Since then, she's been quiet. She did post on her social media a long apology for canceling. She said postponed, but I noticed her relationship status is gone. But the location/check-ins is in the hometown where her parents live, not where we live, so I think she went back to her parents' house after calling off the wedding. But that's all I know, and I heard it secondhand from Pam. But according to Pam, Frank is upset Mary left because all his money is tied up in vendors and he can't get that back. He's been trying to plead his case with the groomsmen, but only his brother is on his side. Pam's fiance and the other groomsmen have stopped talking to him. Also, I heard people asking why Mary wasn't paying for the wedding too. I can't answer that, but Mary works as an STNA and doesn't make a lot. Her bachelor's was in psychology and she never went and got her doctorates, so getting employed in her field isn't very easy. I also don't know if they're still together. Mary didn't say they broke up, just that the wedding was postponed/cancelled. Just remember, I heard most of this secondhand besides the apology I got from Mary and the post she made online. So, was I the asshole?